Give your meat a good old rub. That's it. Nice and hot.
Okay. Oh, I'm wearing my sunglasses, and you know what that means?
I'm blind.
I'm being a hacker. Well, this is how I imagine like every hacker in every movie ever wears sunglasses. And then I realized, do they really, or was that just in the 1980s? And I don't really know anymore, but what it does mean is this video is brought to you by Surfshark. Safety and security online, they are important, and you can protect yourself with Surfshark. Get 85% off and 3 months for free using the link in the description below. And let's jump in, because my glasses are all messed up because I was playing with my kid and I rolled onto them, and now this is all ruined. But I need them to see, so here we are. Back by popular demand. ETA. Also, people were like, Simon, you gotta give ETA a job. And I was like, all right. Someone suggested googly eyes. I gave them googly eyes. And someone was also like, why don't you use it to advertise? Perchthemerch.co. Thank you, ETA. You're a wonderful addition to this program. Let's crack on. Danny has written me a script. It's all about terrible things about fast food. That was a mouthful. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna make some stupid comments. Sam is gonna add some memes. It's Business Blaze. The topic of fast food seems to be cropping up a lot lately in Business Blaze videos. It does, because fast food is awesome. And I'm starting to think that Simon is taunting me by trying to make me come up with allegedly terrible things about fast food. Allegedly. Because as we all know, there's nothing terrible about fast food except, you know, all of the health consequences. I haven't enjoyed any fast food for months now. It would be quite a rare treat for me these days, even in normal, non-pandemic conditions. The downside to living in a sleepy little village in Cornwall is that the nearest KFC is miles and miles away. I think I've talked about this before. Like, I grew up in the middle of nowhere. The nearest McDonald's to me was like a 20-minute drive, and it was at a petrol station, like a service station off the nearest motorway. So it wasn't exactly the best location. And that was the nearest fast food. There wasn't a KFC or a Burger King closer. It was the nearest fast food was 20 minutes drive away. I was very happy when I got my driving license at 17. And although many fast food restaurants in the UK are now starting to open again, the indoor dining areas are closed, and the queues to get served are so alarmingly long that you need to take at least half a day off work. One guy from Middlesbrough was pictured in the UK a few weeks ago after he came up with a cunning idea to beat the queues at McDonald's. He noticed it was much quicker to get served via the drive-thru, but the only problem was that he didn't drive or own a car, like our very own Danny, who anytime he mentions driving, I have to bring it up because Danny doesn't know how to drive. So he made himself a crap load of cardboard car. I've got a picture here. Sam, do the honors, if you feel like it. Sometimes you don't, as people pointed out. Okay. So he made himself a crap little car out of cardboard, which he attached around his waist before happily joining the queue of real cars in the pouring rain. Compelling proof that British ingenuity is the envy of the world. I had the opposite problem. I pulled into a KFC off the motorway, and I was like, yeah, I really want some KFC. But the queue for the drive-thru was so long. Like, the petrol station's here, the KFC is here. The drive-thrus, this is not going to work out because you guys are on the horizontal plane, and I'm describing it on it. It's not going to work. Let me try and say, like, the KFC is here, the petrol station's here. Okay, I'm looking at my screen. KFC is here. The drive-thru queue is here, and it was going all the way up into the petrol station. And I was like, well, screw this. So I just parked next to the KFC, and then I saw that, because you can't sit inside, or you couldn't sit inside, and I just saw that they were serving stuff direct out of the door to the restaurant, and there was no queue. It was like amazing. Sadly, despite queuing for half an hour, he was turned away when he got to the window because his crap cardboard car didn't have an engine. That's what you need to have. You have to have an engine. I don't think that's really fair. This guy's being good for the environment. He's worked it out. I'm all for it. A spokesman for McDonald's said, oh God, what are we doing, McDonald's? You don't need to comment on this, no one cares. For everyone's safety, we absolutely cannot serve people who are not in a road-going motor vehicle, and we would ask customers to refrain from attempting to use the drive-thru lane in any other manner. Miserable sods. I'm fairly certain I've ridden my bike through drive-thru. I'm almost, as a student, I'm almost certain I have, even if it's just as a joke, and I totally got my food. So I'm now so desperate for a fast food meal that I'd probably even settle for a Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme. I can't remember if Danny likes Taco Bell because I complained about Taco Bell because last time I went to the States, I had some Taco Bell, and a friend of mine here who's American, I live in Prague, as many of you already know, and he was like, dude, you gotta have the Taco Bell. Like, he's always going on about it, and I'm like, Grant, it wasn't very good though, was it? But maybe if I take time to try and dig up some of the less appetizing facts about the appalling shambles that is the fast food industry, I can convince myself that I'll just be happy stealing one of Simon's meal replacement shakes. Hold your nose as we dive into the stinky, filthy truth. And I feel like I should just throw in there, allegedly. Ronald McDonald was trying to burn you to death, that pyromaniac. It has to be said that Stella Liebeck garnered very little sympathy from the press or the world in general when she sued McDonald's for $20,000 in 1992 and briefly seemed to end up winning $2.7 million in damages instead. Your lawyers are incredible. Stella had spilt a 49-cent cup of hot coffee all over her lap after being served at a local McDonald's drive-thru in Albuquerque, New Mexico. When she tried to sue McDonald's for serving coffee that was dangerously hot, the move was widely regarded as frivolous, and Stella Liebeck was dubbed the poster child of excessive lawsuits. Except, the story is actually quite interesting because the coffee wasn't served at a coffee temperature. It was served at like an unbelievably hot temperature, and she got like third-degree burns or some crazy. So everyone's like, oh yeah, that woman who sold McDonald's because she got burned by a hot coffee. Ha 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 ha. Except, I think I made a video out on this one today, I found out. Except it kind of was bad. It was really bad. In fairness, you probably do need to take a bit of responsibility when you clumsily spill coffee all over yourself. I do completely agree with that as well, though. But a closer look at the case reveals that Stella Liebeck may actually have done everyone a favor. She was a 79-year-old widow being served a cup of coffee that was 180 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit, or 82 to 88 Celsius if you're American. Oh, you Americans don't understand Celsius. It's awesome. It's not. No one cares. Who gives a f***? Anytime anyone's like, oh, why don't you use metric? Or why don't you use both units? Or can't you tell it to me in Fahrenheit? I'm like, no one gives a f***. You care that much? Google it, you lazy bum. I'm blind. And people are like, oh, freedom units. And then other people are like, oh, any stupid people use imperial. And it's like, no one gives a f***. No one gives a f***. I could not give less of a shit. I really couldn't. This temperature is significantly higher than coffee served in other fast food chains, with the general consensus that it would be dangerous to serve coffee hotter than 60 degrees Celsius, 140 Fahrenheit. Stella had been wearing cotton sweatpants during the spillage, and these absorbed the coffee and held it against her skin, resulting in the scalding of her thighs, buttocks, and groin. Stella was found to have third-degree burns on 6% of her skin, with lesser burns covering 16%. She was required to stay in hospital for 8 days, where she underwent skin graft procedures and lost 20% of her body weight. See, I told you, it's not just, oh, I got a little burn. It's like, oh, I had major medical issues. Following her release from hospital, she was partly disabled for 2 years. Fucking hell. She initially sought $20,000 from McDonald's to cover her actual and anticipated medical expenses. I don't know, this is in America? This must be like the cheapest hospital ever. Because anytime I hear about anyone going to the hospital, you know, any horror story, which I always feel must be exaggerated, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, I tripped and broke my ankle and now I have to pay like $47,000 in medical bills. It's like, really? I'm not sure if I believe it. But here's the thing. During the 1994 trial, held in... Although a friend of mine was in the States, and he concussed himself while skiing, and he went to the hospital, and he had an MRI, and they gave him a bill for like 12 grand or something, which is like, oh my god. And his travel insurance were just like, yep, just send us the bill, and we'll pay for it. And I'm like, oh my god, don't forget your travel insurance. But here's the thing. During the 1994 trial held in New Mexico District Court, it was revealed that McDonald's had received over 700 previous complaints from customers who had just got frazzled by their piping hot coffee and had paid out over $500,000 in total to settle these cases. Oh, class action lawsuits. Although, just to add to that story about the travel insurance thing, it's like if a hospital gave me a bill for like 12 grand, I'd be like, yeah, I'd definitely pay that. And then I'd leave and I guess be like, well, I guess I can't go back to America.
Those are illegal.
I mean, now I'd pay it, but when I was poor, I'd be like, what the f am I gonna do? It's 12 grand. I don't have 12 grand. So it appears that they got away with throwing relatively small amounts of money at grumpy, scolded customers, but the Stella Liebeck case had proven to be a burn too far. Or maybe we should say blaze. Or maybe we shouldn't make fun of people who suffered third-degree burns over 6% of their body. That would probably be appropriate. So I do know, I just know that in 20 years, or sooner. It's going to be like, there's going to be a hashtag cancel Simon, where they dig up all of the inappropriate jokes that I've made about people getting burned and calling it a blaze because the channel's called Blaze, and talking about cocaine way too much. Well, hopefully I'll be retired by then. A jury found, it was argued in court that McDonald's coffee would burn the mouth and throat if consumed when served, and the warnings on the cup were not prominent enough. The jury found McDonald's to be 80% responsible for the incident, with Stella 20% at fault. A quite staggering figure of $2.7 million was originally awarded by the jury in punitive damages, but this was probably quite sensibly reduced by the judge. Stella Liebeck. Why would a jury be deciding this? I mean, juries are great. I generally believe that you should have the option of a jury trial if you don't want to judge. And I think that's a good part of democracy. I know a lot of democracies don't have jury trials, but I do think they're a good thing. But one, in civil cases, they shouldn't be a thing. And two, they definitely shouldn't be deciding how much money, especially when the judge can be like, no. No. Stella Liebeck ultimately walked away with $480,000 in punitive damages and a further $200,000 in compensatory damages. McDonald's has since lowered the temperature of its coffee, good, and legal and medical experts have pointed out that this Stella I'd do it more, but I'm holding my coffee and I don't want to put it down because I'm lazy. Legal effort has probably saved. I like that Danny put Stella in bold because he's like, Simon's going to miss this pun, isn't he? Saved hundreds of thousands of dollars from burn injuries, hundreds of thousands of customers from burn injuries, fantastic. Even so, please make sure you keep a tight grip. Yes. Good advice. Business Blaze is also saving you from getting horribly burned. They nearly served 40-year-old meat in China. It's often been alleged that some fast food has an alarming tendency to last forever without ever going off, as illustrated in the case of that bloke from Utah who shoved a Big Mac in his pocket in 1999 and found that it still looked quite reasonable 21 years later. We've talked about this man before and how he is allegedly a very strange individual. I don't think there's anything alleged about that, is there? To be honest, I'll take the risk on that one. The fast food chains have explained that there is nothing too sinister in this. It's just that the high salt and low moisture content in some of their meals prevent the usual growth of mold. Okay. And the low moisture content in this guy's pocket. And this incredible display of longevity only really works if you store the food in cool, dry conditions, like this guy's pocket. If you kept a Big Mac in a warm, moist place, it would rot just as quickly as anything else. If you do come across a 20-year-old Big Mac, it's probably not a very good idea to eat it, but some suppliers still like to squeeze all of the value they can from the meat, even if it's getting on a bit. Oh no, who is this? Who is this? Who is this? Please don't be KFC. My mouth is watering for KFC. But I'm on a diet. Okay. I'm on a healthy... I was like, okay, last 6 months of the year, I'm gonna actually focus on eating healthy. And so I'm like, fast food once a month. That doesn't include pizza. Pizza doesn't count as fast food because it's... I have no excuse for this.
Yeah, boy.
An undercover operation filmed in the factory belonging to Shanghai's Hussey. Oh no. Food company in 2015 came across 100,000 tons of frozen meat with an estimated value of around $483 million. That's probably enough meat to last me a lifetime.
Give your meat a good old rub. That's it. Nice and hot.
Okay. This meat was destined to end up on the tables of Chinese branches of KFC, McDonald's, and Pizza Hut, along with tons of other local fast food restaurants, and the dates on the packaging looked pretty fresh, but they were lies. What a shocker. In fact, the beef, pork, and chicken wings had gone through a cycle of being frozen, thawed, and refrozen for years and years, and some of the meat dating back as far as the 1970s. You've got to be kidding me. And also, I don't know if it's true, because I recently learned that if you reheat rice, you can do it properly, but I was always told, never reheat rice. If you reheat rice, you're gonna get cancer. Or not cancer, I mean, you're gonna get something that's gonna make you sick and then you're gonna die. I'm going to die. But I recently found out that that's totally okay. So I don't think you can unfreeze and refreeze things. That's still definitely a problem, right? The Hussey Food Company, which is actually a subsidiary of the US-owned OSI Group, were fined $3.6 million for trying to shift mislabeled substandard food. That doesn't actually sound that bad. The OSI Group was unhappy about this decision and tried to claim that the general media clearly influenced the verdict. Dude, just own it. When you're selling meat from the 1970s that you've been around with for like 50 years, just own it. Just be like, yeah, we won't do it again. You got fined. And also if you're like, yeah, the media's blowing it out of proportion, you're gonna think they're gonna be like, oh my God, we were? I'm so sorry, we'll stop doing that. No, it's the media. It's literally what they do. The media is like, number one job, blowing things out of proportion. Number 2 job, reporting the f***ing news. Come on! But they had even more to worry about when 10 employees connected to the scandal were given jail sentences, with the biggest culprit identified as Australian Yang Li-Quan, who worked in the role of general manager of the processing department at the OSI Group, China, and he was handed a 3-year sentence. That's not around. But here's the big question though. If the scandal hadn't been uncovered and the rotten meat had ended up getting served at fast food restaurants, would customers have even noticed? I don't know, Danny, it depends how deep fried it is. Starbucks put in their coffee. Uh-oh, allegedly. I mean, so far, we had a court verdict, and we had a court verdict. If there's been a court verdict, we can say all of this. I didn't feel entirely convinced that Starbucks fits into the fast food category, as I always thought it was more of a cafe or, well, a coffee shop. No But it does seem to be widely recognized by the industry as a top performer in the fast food family. What is it doing in the is a coffee shop? They sell food, but it's like sandwiches. That'd be like any shop that sells sandwiches is a fast food shop. It's not, clearly. Although Subway, I think, probably is. Ooh, this is confusing. Starbucks is not the same, though. I suppose it does serve up refreshments pretty quickly, so it counts, apparently. Which is good news because it means that I can tell you that they put in their coffee. During a 2017 investigation by the BBC Consumer Rights Programme Watchdog, 10 samples of ice drinks taken from 3 of the biggest coffee chains in the UK were tested for bacteria, with surprising results. At both Starbucks and Caffè Nero, 3 out of 10 samples contained bacteria known as fecal coliforms, which, as the name suggests, is usually found in feces. The British chain Costa Coffee fared even worse. 7 of the 10 samples contained the bacteria. Watchdog's expert, well, they're not putting it, that sounds like Starbucks put coffee sounds like they're putting in their coffee intentionally, but it just turns out there's bacteria in the coffee which is closely related to... Why am I defending them? Watchdog's expert Tony Lewis was deeply troubled by this. He reported that these should not be present at any level, never mind in the significant numbers found. No Tony, but a bump. All 3 coffee chains expressed their concerns at the findings and extensively reviewed their ice handling guidelines and procedures. But maybe this is not quite the storm that Watchdog made it out to be. It's worth pointing out that no actual fecal matter was found in the samples. It was just a type of bacteria that you pretty much find everywhere. It was the kind of testing that briefly and wrongly convinced everyone that all beards were composed of about 90% fecal matter. Wait, that's not true? I'm always finding fecal matter in my beard. Just try not to think about this too much the next time you're downing a chocolate-sprinkled cappuccino. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, but that doesn't, 2 minutes ago, I was complaining about the media blowing things out of proportion. They didn't put shit in their coffee, did they? A side order of maggots is okay by the FDA. I think we know what we're talking about here because there are these guidelines by governmental bodies about how much weird in food is acceptable. So it could be like, yeah. If you've got a ton of cereal, it's okay to have 14 rat hairs in there. That's okay. That's within the recommended guidelines. Although if you purchase my merch at purchthemerch.co, as ETA is telling us right now, there's going to be absolutely minimal rat shit. Very minimal amounts. It was news to me that the average American is likely to ingest between 1 and 2 pounds of flies, maggots, and mites every year. And people say that my diet is weird. That is not possible. 1 to 2 pounds? Of course, most of them aren't doing it on purpose. Maggots and flies are hiding everywhere in our food, along with mouse droppings, mold, insect eggs, rodent hair, and other defects. And it's not a problem unique to the fast food industry. In fact, it's not technically a problem at all, according to the US Food and Drug Administration, which seems very relaxed about it. But it's maybe something you might want to try and avoid thinking about next time you're eating at Pizza Hut or McDonald's, or Domino's, or but just eating in general, anything you've purchased ever. The FDA says that it's perfectly fine for tomato paste and other pizza sauces to contain up to 15 fly eggs and 1 maggot per 100 grams? That is not a lot of tomato paste at all. You're allowed a bit more maggot for your money with mushrooms. 20 maggots of any size are perfectly permissible per 100 grams of drained mushrooms or 15 grams of dried mushrooms. My example of a ton of cereal was way under the rate, way under. That's insane. So if you ever come across a couple of giant mutant maggots crawling around the top of your pizza, it's no good getting all grumpy and complaining about it. Before you get too worried, you're not really likely to notice unless you sink your teeth into a particularly crunchy one. This is just so unpleasant. I feel also I'd notice if there was a big-ass maggot on my pizza. The FDA handbook notes that it would be economically impractical to grow, harvest, or process raw products that are totally free of non-hazardous, naturally occurring, unavoidable defects. Besides, you may need to get used to it. Insects are widely tipped to be the future of protein as they require far less land and water than livestock. Just have the squeezy cheese to hand and you'll be fine. As I mentioned previously, I'm not allergic to anything that I've ever discovered except for grasshoppers. So I'm when we finally have to eat insects. Or, I mean, all my meat eating is going to become really expensive and people are going to be like, oh, you still eat meat? That's so passé. Don't buy squeezy cheese, because it's wrong. And just buy regular cheese and melt it on top of your food like a normal person, or on top of your, what are we talking about? But today what you should get, save your money off the squeezy cheese and get yourself a fantastic, heavenly, sent from above sponsor Surfshark. Because if you use the internet, if you have personal information, and look, you do use the internet, and you do have personal information, well, you want to protect that. And the internet is a pretty weird place. There are people out there, not me, not ETA, and probably not anyone you know, I hope, otherwise maybe you're part of some hacker collective or something. And there are these people out there that want to steal your identity. They want to take your personal information and use it for ill. That's not right. Surfshark has HackLock, all caps here. This searches databases for your passwords, which sounds like a bad thing because you're like, well, Surfshark, why are you searching databases for my passwords? Well, Surfshark are the good guys. They're going to be like, Simon, got some news. We found your password. And be like, oh, you're going to steal all my information? Are you going to like buy loads of stuff off Amazon with my passwords? And they're like, no, don't worry, we're the good guys. You should just change that password, okay? Before someone more nefarious takes it, like, I don't know, one of those hackers from a movie. So you've done that. You're feeling all safe and secure. Good news, you are safe and secure. Well, fire up Surfshark VPN, and what you can do is you're like, oh, you're on Netflix, and you're like, I really want to watch that show, but it's only available in Japan. Or some. I saw someone do an ad for Surfshark on another channel, and they were like, yeah, I wanted to watch like anime, but it was only available on Japanese Netflix. And I was like, I've never seen anime in my life, but definitely going to use that in my next Surfshark read. So over in Japan, you want to watch anime? Fire, each his own. Fire up Surfshark, hop on over to Hokkaido or some Japanese place, and you'll be like, no worries, mate. Also, Surfshark, great news, totally unlimited. So, you know, if you want to like download and watch in like raw 8K, maybe you've got like your own home cinema and you're like, God, I wish I could watch in 8K. I don't know, you must be super rich, so you can definitely afford Surfshark. Get on it then, support the show. It's totally unlimited, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Download in 8K, no one cares. And there are no logs kept either. So that's good. I mean, kind of expected. I have to say I'd expect that one. It's kind of why you'd get a VPN. And also, 30-day money-back guarantee if you don't like it. Fantastic. Get 85% off, 3 months for free, through the link in the description below. And that's where we end the ad read today, my favorite part of every video. And let's get back to it. How much chicken would you expect to find in chicken? Some of the more optimistic Business Place viewers might say a figure like, oh, I don't know, 100%. But the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, showed a very different story in 2017 edition of the consumer affairs show, Marketplace. The show revealed results from lab tests which were carried out to ascertain the exact DNA makeup of chicken available in 5 major fast food restaurants. The chains that were sampled included the likes of McDonald's and Wendy's, and most of the results showed that your average lump of fast food chicken contained somewhere between about 85 to 90% chicken, with the rest of it being made up of unidentifiable plant DNA. Isn't the point of DNA that we can identify it though? I thought that was the whole thing. But the results for the chicken found in your average sandwich from a Canadian branch of Subway's stood out like a sore gizzard. I mean, Subway is like the worst fast food. Like, of all the things, it's unhealthy, it tastes all the same, and it smells weird. And it's like, why wouldn't you just have a McDonald's or something that is not Subway? Jesus Christ. In fact, the results, you know, if you're gonna have a sandwich, have a nice sandwich. In fact, the results were so surprising that CBC repeated the lab test 5 times because they couldn't quite believe their beady eyes. But the results were always the same. It was found that Subway's chicken breast contains only 54% chicken, while the company's chicken strips contained only 43% chicken. I feel like if it's less than 50% chicken, you probably shouldn't get to call it chicken. The study found that the rest was made up mostly of soy fillers. Yeah, you'd be like soy filler strips with chicken. This might be quite handy for those people who are thinking about adopting a vegetarian diet but aren't quite ready for the full commitment yet. But for everyone else, the results might be viewed as a little bit disappointing. I don't know, it's Subway, I'm not super disappointed. I'd be like, yeah, I mean, what did I expect? Subway never accepted the findings of the study and claimed that their chicken only contained about 1% soy, although they did promise to take the matter up with the supplier. That's even more concerning, because then it's like, oh yeah, it's 43% chicken, 1% soy, and 56% unidentified DNA matter, which makes me think of aliens. CBC took their original claims and pointed out that Subway had yet to provide an alternative explanation for the DNA test results. Later that same year, Subway actually sued CBC for broadcasting a report that was reckless and maliciously misleading. No, it's called reporting. CBC stood by their original claims and pointed out that Subway had yet to provide an alternative explanation for the DNA test results. The case was dismissed in 2019. That's what I like to hear, allegedly. Still, next time you're munching on a Subway chicken sandwich in Canada, just remember that soy is packed with loads of yummy nutrients. It can help you lower your cholesterol as part of a controlled diet. And I mean, you're getting, 1% through your Subway chicken. 1% maximum. That's right. 1%. The pictures on the menu are stinking lies. This is obviously not something unique to the fast food industry, and it's not unusual for a company to use a compelling photo to show off their wares in the best possible light. But the food stylists and photographers behind the major chain menus do seem to go to extraordinary lengths to make that fairly simple burger look like a mouth-watering gift delivered on a platter from fast food heaven. Of course, they have to use real ingredients. They wouldn't be able to get away with showing a picture of a ribeye steak in a photograph of a Big Mac, but they'll use effective lighting, small blowtorches, tweezers, toothpicks, paint, glue, and tape to make sure that the food in the photograph will look nothing remotely like the food that gets plonked down on your tray. The website Consumer Reports recently conducted an experiment in which they compared the visual depiction of the food on the menu to a photograph of the meal that they actually received. I mean, this is nothing new. There must be a billion YouTube videos doing this. And some of the results are quite laughable. Oh my, we've got some pictures. For example, if you screw your eyes up and concentrate really hard, you might be able to tell that the sausage McDonald's, thank you Sam, sausage McMuffins from McDonald's are not exactly the same. What? I mean, it still kind of looks good though. That looks pretty tasty. I like those little burned edges right there, and that egg looks good. I'd say the top one, I know it looks fake. That bottom one, I'm like, that looks pretty tasty. What about the Gordita Supremes from Taco Bell? Yeah, it doesn't look anything like it. It does look good though, like I would eat that. And here's perhaps the worst offender of all, the Chipotle steak and cheese with avocado from Subway. Oof, no, no, no! They're largely allowed to get away with it as the ingredients are authentic, and every advertiser is allowed a certain degree of puffery in their marketing. There's no specific FTC regulations governing photographs used in fast food marketing, and the FTC has never pursued any cases of alleged deception on a fast food menu. A 64-year-old woman from Hudson Valley in New York did try filing a $20 million lawsuit against KFC after discovering that a KFC bucket wasn't quite as overflowing with chicken as the photograph seemed to depict. Now that, right there, that's a frivolous lawsuit. She was also hugely disappointed at the small size of the chicken pieces. I suspect she'd just been standing a bit too close to the menu and the case was dismissed. What a surprise. Would you like some heroin with that? Yes, please.
Okay.
It is... Jesus Christ, ETA. Woo! Scare the out of me, son. It's alright. You just stay there. You just stay there. You secure? Yeah, that's more secure. It's true that McDonald's is famous for giving away some cool toys and goodies in their Happy Meals for kids. Oh god, where are we going? The idea was first beamed into McDonald's stores way back in 1979 when they launched the... I'm missing a page, here we go. Star Trek meal to tie in with the long-awaited original Enterprise crew in Star Trek the Motion Picture. And to be honest, it looked pretty fabulous. Much better than the cheap crap you get today. You got a fold-out board game, glittering iron-on sheets, non-functional teleport bracelets, and even a plastic replicator video communicator in which you could feed accompanying mini comic books to view one individual at a time on the viewing port and gradually watch the whole story unfold. It sounds Terrible. Since then, we've been treated to lines of toys based on the Flintstones, Spider-Man, Sonic the Hedgehog, and the lesser-known Cowboy McNugget. And in the interest of not breaking any strict US laws, McDonald's cleverly decided against just shoving all these toys at the bottom of a bag of French fries. But one particular branch of McDonald's in Pittsburgh, is it Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh? Because we'd pronounce that Pittsburgh in the UK, but I'm fairly sure it's Pittsburgh, which sounds worse. Pennsylvania decided to give away something in the Happy Meals which didn't appear to be on the menu. Oh, please say it's heroin. And didn't appear to have much regard for the law either. It's heroin. All you had to do when ordering a Happy Meal at the drive-thru was say the words, "I want a toy." The secret code had a surprising effect. The amount you were charged for your meal, the usual $2 meal, suddenly shot up to $82. But in return, you got 10 bags of heroin, stuffed inside the same box as your Teletubbies and Barbie dolls. Wow, heroin was cheap back in the day. Following a lead from an informant, undercover officers decided to try out the secret Happy Meal upgrade for themselves, and sure enough, ended up being given a box stuffed full of chicken McNuggets, fries, milkshakes, and heroin. At which point the game was up. It's worth making it very clear this was all down to one rogue individual working at the branch rather than an experimental trial being rolled out by McDonald's. 26-year-old Shantia Dennis was arrested and faced a string of charges including criminal delivery and possession of heroin. I guess that's called drug dealing? It's not clear what happened to It was not clear what happened to Shantia after this, but I imagine she probably lost her job at McDonald's and ended up either in prison or working at Taco Bell. But so there you have it. Conclusive proof that fast food chains are either trying to kill you, serve you rotten 40-year-old meat, or non-chicken based chicken, shit in your coffee, or provide you with heroin Happy Meals. Allegedly. That should probably be enough to put you off for life. As for me, I'm just waiting for the queues to die down a bit. None of this has put me off. I don't mind if someone, no one's gonna give me heroin in my bag, because I'll be like, why am I getting charged $82 for this? And they'll be like, oh, it's the heroin. But I didn't order that, did I? And all the other stuff is like, oh, whatever, who cares? I like it. This has been Business Place. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do consider heading over to purchasethemerch.co. Get some merch, and I'll see you next time. It's heroin.
Yeah, boy.